Hi guys. So let's get some people on. Yes, I am in Harley makeup. If you didn't see my video earlier, you will know why. Just fluffing my hair. So let's get some people on. Thank you very much, Chris Richards. I now have the WAP song in my head. This is payback for the Into the Unknown one, isn't it? I have it in my head. I am not going to start singing it, by the way, guys. Hi. So yes, I am aware I am in Harley Quinn get up. Let's get some people on. How is everybody doing? Drop me a hashtag live if you are watching me live, and a hashtag replay if you are watching me on the replay. I'm just going to get some people on. That'll do for now. Hi. I cannot see comments yet, so if you are commenting, it might take a while. There's a little bit of a commenting. So, excuse the fact I do not have Harley Quinn hair. I was wearing a wig earlier if you saw the video. Hi, Chris. But I still have the makeup on. I thought, do I wipe it off? Don't I wipe it off? I'll leave it on. It's interesting. So, stigma, mental health. In particular, stigma. Hi Chase, how are you? I am still congested, by the way, so if I start sniffing up, I really do apologise. I will try not to stuff the Kleenexes up my nose. So yeah, mental health stigma. Hi Laura. Living with a diagnosis, whatever mental health challenge or emotional health challenge or physical diagnosis, there always seems to be a stigma attached to it. One of the reasons why I became so fierce in advocating for mental health communities, particularly generalized anxiety, intrusive thoughts and OCD, was because I really kind of rebelled against the stigma that was attached to it. It was a case of I didn't want to feel ashamed. I was not going to let anybody, not even society, make me feel disgraced for having something. I wasn't about to allow having a diagnosis to make me feel any different to anybody else. And by being in that space for the last couple of years and, you know, being in many support groups and forums and facilitating with an OCD charity and doing all the bits and pieces that I've been doing, it really opened my eyes up to how stigmatized mental health really is, and that each of us as an individual have absolutely amazing power to be able to start reducing that. And there's a couple of ways that we can do it. There is such a stigma, totally agree, and it's so hard. Hi Vicky. Hi Zoe. So the first one is breaking down the misconception that mental health is less significant as physical health. So for some reason we've got into this space where we believe because we have a mental health challenge or we have a mental health diagnosis that it's not as important as a physical one. So if we look at a cold or a flu, for instance, when somebody's physically ill, what happens? We all wish people well, we ask if they need any help with anything, we offer to make them some soup, take them treats, anything they might need. Hey babe, off topic, shall I give the 10? No, wait for me to do that, please. I want the privilege. So yeah, off topic, by the way, guys. I will explain about that in a second because I'm so proud. I will explain at the end. So yeah, let's take a flu for example. So ignoring the fact we're kind of in a pandemic, when someone has a physical illness, friends tend to rally round and they offer support. Is there anything I can do? Can I grab you anything from the shops? You know, they might take treats, a DVD, you know, that kind of stuff. And people kind of rally round. But when it comes to, okay, beautiful, have a great life. Thank you. But when it comes to mental health and emotional challenges, yes, we do feel, you know, there are many of us that have got some really great friends and a great support network, but there are so many of us out there that don't. And it's almost like, because it's mental health, nobody wants to kind of rally around. Everybody feels kind of awkward and don't know what to do. So it creates this adversity for having it. Like, we don't feel deserving to ask for friends to rally around and help us. We feel like we have to do it all by ourselves. But why is it different to have an emotional health challenge or mental health challenge and a physical one? Because they are both the same. Your brain is still a physical thing. It's part of your body, so therefore it's still physical. So one of the areas that we can move towards that is we can start treating them both the same. Now, I'm not saying illnesses and diagnoses such, any life-limiting ones or life-threatening diagnoses. Absolutely, that's a different context. But in general, your mental health and your physical health are equal. They're not different. They're not. They shouldn't be creating this adversity. And I think they're both as equivalent in significance, because both physical and mental or emotional affect people's lives. They may affect people uniquely and differently, depending on what their particular diagnosis or difficulty is, but it still affects somebody's life in many different areas, so they should not be treated any differently. So that's the first thing that we can do. The second one, as I said, they both impact a person's day-to-day living. And because there is this separation between emotional and physical, somebody might actually sit there, and many people actually do, and think that their anxiety difficulties, by the way, anxiety is a normal, natural function of the brain. It's supposed to be there. However, when they're having anxiety challenges and difficulties, many people think it's not significant, that it's not important enough to ask for help, that they just think it's one of them things that they've just got to accept and deal with. So we start to think, we're not deserving of reaching out for that help because something else is more important, a physical illness is more important. No, every person, regardless of what it is that they're struggling with, is important, because they are not their challenge, they are not their diagnosis. So everybody is deserving of having support. And I think when we make that distinction for people that we know are struggling, it makes it much easier for those people to feel like they can reach out for help, and they can reach out for that support, and they don't feel ashamed by doing so. They don't feel, because even myself in my own experiences reaching out for some support and help, because I've had a really difficult time with really heightened levels of anxiety, and I've had no option but to ask for that help. There has been times where I felt really selfish, and I thought, who am I to be asking for help? It's only anxiety. There's people out there that are struggling with really difficult things. So who am I to even ask for that? But everybody is just as important. You are just as important. So your difficulties that you're facing are just as significant as the next person's. So everybody is worthy. Everybody deserves to feel supported, to feel seen, to feel heard. And to get help when they need it. Separation also means that their difficulties aren't as important at all. They might start feeling like they're a burden, and it's really important that we open up conversations with people so that they can see that it's not a burden to ask for help. Most people actually will be willing to help. There's somebody, I'm not going to mention names or any of what we've spoken about, but there's a couple of people that have reached out to me today. And do I feel like that's a burden? No, because that decision is ultimately mine. If I wanted to help somebody, I absolutely will. If I feel like I can't give them that time at that moment, I will let them know and say, look, I'm a little bit busy until this afternoon, or later today, and I'll get back to you. But is that a burden on my day? No. And I wouldn't do it. And this is the thing, that's that belief again. I wouldn't help someone, or I wouldn't reach out and respond if I didn't want to. Hi George. I wouldn't do that if I didn't want to. It's as simple as that. I would not, and I don't think anybody else would. If they didn't want to, they wouldn't, and they would say, I'm really busy right now. They may make an excuse, and that's okay, because there are plenty of people out there that you can reach out to. You are amazing. That's why. Thank you, Laura. So are you. I love helping people. Also, I never see it as a burden. It's not. So people do have a choice. When you reach out, they have a choice of saying yes or no. And if they say no, then that's okay. It just means at that moment in time, you know, they may be busy with other stuff. It doesn't mean that you're not important. It just means that it's an opportunity to find somebody that will. Also, another way that we can do it, I have taken notes by the way, because I want to make sure this really hits. Another way is encouraging talking about mental health, seeing it as equal to physical health. Hi BB, which I've already run through. By talking about it and being confident in talking about it and dropping any kind of shame, because if you saw my post earlier, the very definition of stigma means it's a mark of disgrace. That is the true definition of a stigma. And people living with mental health challenges are absolutely the furthest thing from a disgrace. And when we are labeling people, when we're labeling ourselves, when we're giving ourselves that negative self-talk, when we're giving judgments and criticisms and labels, and you know, I've had it myself, you know, the amount of times I've been called a freak and an OCD freak is unreal. That's their opinion. I don't care. I really don't care, because the people that want to be open to talking about mental health, what that does is it normalizes it, and that's what's important. It makes it normal. It makes it okay to have these experiences, because regardless of whether people admit it or not, everybody at some point in their life, it's okay, Laura, at the end of the day, when people don't know, they can't understand. When they give themselves an opportunity to learn and understand, that perception, that opinion may change. If it doesn't, then they're a douche, and they really don't contribute to my life at all. So they can say what they want. I'm not fussed, because I am who I am, and they love me regardless of my diagnosis or not. And actually, through having the diagnosis and doing this, it's given me the opportunity to do this work and do what I love doing, what I'm passionate about, in creating change, in reducing stigmas and stereotypes attached to OCD. If I didn't have that diagnosis, I don't know where I would have been right now. I don't know what I would have been doing. So part of me is thankful for the experience that I've had. Am I proud of the diagnosis? Not really, but I'm proud of me. And the experience and the things that I've learned that I can now share with you guys. I guess it's the opinion of ignorant people who don't take the time to understand. Exactly, because people don't know what they don't know. And when people do give themselves an opportunity to learn, they do better. So when we encourage talking openly and having open discussions and conversations with people that live with mental health challenges, it starts to normalize it, and people start becoming more confident and more courageous in going out and seeking some support for themselves, because they start to see that actually maybe I am normal. Maybe there's many people out there that struggle just like I do, and it's not a weakness to struggle with your mental health. It's not a permanent thing. Not every day is going to feel like it's got a dark cloud over you. And it's also really helpful to know that everybody at some stage in their life will struggle with their emotional health or their mental health. It doesn't actually mean that it's going to be permanent. It comes down to experiences, childhood, adult stresses. There's a multitude of things where it can really affect somebody's mental health, and your brain is still a physical thing. So right back to the start where I said mental health and physical health are no different. They're kind of equals in significance and how they impact on somebody. So yeah, by talking about it and normalizing it, it gives people a bit of a confidence boost in going and seeking some help, because then they feel like they don't have to be ashamed of it, they don't have to hide it, and that actually there's more and more people out there that understand what they're going through, and that actually they don't feel as alone, they don't feel abnormal or wired wrong or broken, because everybody has struggled at some point. Vicky says, I only learned about OCD from your book. Many people have. I think most people who have actually read the book don't actually have a diagnosis of OCD, so that is absolutely amazing that people are willing to learn about it. And that leads into what I was saying on the live last week, is when we give ourselves an opportunity to learn about it, you don't know whether you're going to come across somebody in life, and you'll be able to recognise the signs of it, and you'll know exactly how to support them because you've read that book, because you've listened, you've joined my lives, because you've read the content that I put out, and the videos and the things that I do. You'll know exactly how to support somebody if you was to ever come across somebody that has that diagnosis. There are still a lot of misconceptions about what OCD is, and a lot of stereotypes that go on, because the general understanding is that the typical person with OCD is neat and tidy. If that was the case, it wouldn't be considered a mental illness, because then many people like to be neat and tidy. We're kind of cluttered, but hey, it's organised chaos. That's me in a nutshell, so that suits me fine. But there is the TV shows that were created, obsessive compulsive cleaners, the stereotyping where people think it's hilarious to put OCD on a jumper at Christmas time and say obsessive Christmas disorder or obsessive fishing disorder. It's not funny, and it's not quirky, and it really overshadows what the disorder is about and how it really impacts people and how much people suffer, because things like that take the voice away from the OCD community. Well, yeah, it overshadows the voice of the OCD community, because they feel like they can't talk out about it because they have the piss taken out of them. Sorry for the French, by the way, but they do. It's almost like people are taking the piss by creating jumpers like that, so they feel like they can't speak out about it because they'll be laughed at. That's what that kind of stuff does. There is cleaning companies set up, obsessive compulsive cleaners, or they use the acronym OCD, or it really can be glamorized quite a lot, and that is another way that prevents people from seeking some help. You've also got, not that I'm knocking Miss Hinch, I think she's great, but when you've got groups like Miss Hinch's on Facebook, and everybody's going, oh, I can't stand mess, and I need triangles in my carpet, and I need every scent of Zaflora, and I need this, and that has to be a certain way. People start to think that it's OCD, that it's obsessive, when people start saying in their comments, I'm so over obsessed with that, with, everything. The shark hoover, like, that was amazing, marketing when women at home wanted a shark hoover. Now, I've never had one, but I would like to own one because apparently they're really good. But people were buying them because they were putting lines in the carpet and triangles, and the only hoover out there that was powerful enough to do that was a shark. And those hoovers, I'm thinking around the £400-500 mark, maybe more. Someone help me out there, because I've never actually looked into it. And that's great, but when they're putting in the comments, I'm so obsessed with this, what do you think that people then start to have the understanding that that is OCD when it's not? And that can also silence somebody from going out and reaching out for some help. And also, what is really, really important is those who haven't been diagnosed yet. I got one from the anti-hair roll thing. Mine was, is it? Yeah, off topic, let's get back on it. So another one is those who haven't been diagnosed yet. This kind of stuff that gets said on social media and gets used, and obsessive compulsive cleaners and all the rest of it, and I'm going to get to your comment in a minute, Chase, because it's just disappeared and I want to read it. When somebody hasn't been diagnosed and they don't realise that it's OCD, do you know how scary that is for somebody when actually they think there's something seriously wrong with them? So a perfect example of that, and if you have read my book, which Vicky has, they will know that I spent nearly a year not knowing that I had OCD, because I was of the belief that OCD was about cleaning and neatness and contamination and germs and stuff. I didn't know that it could be this multitude, this big spectrum of different unique ways that it impacts somebody, that it shows up for them with thoughts, with creative daydreams, if you like. That's the only way I can kind of describe them, like a visual mental image where it's just an idea or it's an intrusive feeling. There's a multitude of ways it turns up it kind of shows up and affects people. But I didn't know that, because I'd only seen what I'd seen on social media or in the news or on programs. That I didn't actually know it was OCD. I actually spent some time thinking I was schizophrenic, or, you know, having a psychosis and psychotic episode. I was very, very scared. It was a very, very difficult experience. Had I have known it was OCD at the beginning, if there wasn't such a stereotype and stigma attached to it, if I'd have known back then, maybe, who knows, it wouldn't have created such the many years of difficulties that I had with it. Who knows? I don't know. But as Chase always says, I'm going to quote Chase here, knowledge is absolutely, it is power. When you know, it makes it easy to start putting steps in place to helping yourself and to being supported and reaching out. So yeah, I could have saved about 10 months of believing that that I had schizophrenia. And in those 10 months, hi Anne-Marie, in those 10 months, I didn't spend as much time with my children as I would have liked to, because OCD made me feel like I was a monster and couldn't do that. So it kind of, the stereotype itself robbed away 10 months of me being a mother to my children. Obviously, I took care of them, but emotionally, you know, I couldn't be there for them, and it's awful when it does that. And this is the horrible truth of what stigma and stereotyping can do. So we can also reduce the stereotyping by doing what I do now, which is speaking openly, loudly, proudly, and having no shame about having a mental health diagnosis or experience. So people can be watching this, and if they're watching on the replay, and they identify with it, more often than not, they inbox me and tell me what a relief it is to know that they're not on their own, because they believe they was the only one. Because there is a stigma and stereotype, because they don't actually realise that there's somebody else out there that's having almost a similar, if not mirrored, experience, and they didn't know what it was. And the absolute weight that lifts off the shoulders, that you are no longer an I on your own, but a we and a me together, and supported and seen and heard, that feeling is amazing. I went through a stage of just basic care and was on autopilot. Exactly, I totally relate to that too, Vicky. That's a stage I went through as well. If we can change the attitude we have towards mental illness, and each of us keeps taking that step, you know, I think one person taking a step, so if everybody on the live took a step towards reducing stigma and stereotyping of mental illness, then imagine collectively what that can do in our communities, in society, in our culture. And the final one is separating the person from the diagnosis, and that's a huge one, and that comes to two parts. So the person with the diagnosis, it's helpful and beneficial for them to understand that their diagnosis does not define who they are. Their diagnosis is not part of their identity. So when people come to me and they may say, Becky, I'm really depressed. I'm depressed. No, you're experiencing depression. You're experiencing this, that, and the other. You are feeling this right now. You are not depression. You are you. So if I said to myself, you know, if I wasn't me, and I was like, I feel so depressed. No, Becky, you're not. You're experiencing depression. Depression is not part of you. It's not your identity. You are you. A diagnosis can't take that away. And it's the same for OCD, is realising, rather than saying I'm so OCD or my OCD, like we're owning it, like it's part of who we are. It's not. It's an experience. It's something that we've lived through or still working through and making steps towards gaining remission and recovery. But actually it's feeling that pride and confidence in ourselves, that just because we live with a disorder doesn't make us the disorder. It doesn't mean that we have to suffer just because we have it. And we can let go of that. We don't need to hold on tight to that. Talking about it as well, being out in the open, separating yourself from that, it paves the way for other people to build up that confidence and that courage and that resilience into reclaiming some of their life back, in doing the things that they enjoy doing, knowing that they can still live life and have a disorder. Just because they have a diagnosis, just because I have an experience or a diagnosis of OCD doesn't mean that I have to suffer in life because I have that. I can still enjoy the things that I like to do. You can still enjoy the things you like to do regardless of your diagnosis. It does not have to hold you back. It's not part of who you are. So the final one is supporting people, helping them to see that they are more than, not less than. So just because they have a disorder does not mean that they are any less deserving of love, of support, of friendship, of connection, of compassion, and living life that they want. It doesn't mean they are less deserving to feel like they're an amazing person worthy of love, because they are. It just so happens that they have a diagnosis. And it comes back to that, you separate yourself from whatever diagnosis it is that you have. And it's about asking questions. If someone comes to you and says, they have this diagnosis, ask questions about it, take an interest, because one of the most amazing things that you can ever do for somebody is give them that space and let them feel heard instead of insignificant and invisible. Then it validates that, and it really does help them to feel seen rather than isolated. I'm going to go to Chase's comments now. I think that's all my notes that I had. Chase, let's go see Chase. This is one of the primary reasons I suffered in silence for so many years: the stigma and the judgment and the ostracization. Absolutely. If these people knew what really went on inside our heads, they would realise the disorder is about as funny as a heart attack or a stroke. Exactly. However, on the back foot of that, when we do reach remission and we're able to see thoughts for what they are, that they're not actually part of who we are, they're just kind of an experience, we actually do start to see how ridiculous they are. And actually there has been many times where I've actually laughed at them because they've been so absurd. Not funny ha because it's a joke, but just how absurd and how creative they get. And I have laughed, but that's up to us. That's our experience if we choose to laugh at that. But when we're laughing at it and making a joke out of it when somebody doesn't understand it, then that is what creates the stigma. And I'm inviting everybody to go online and have a look at the various ways. Have a look at the various ways that OCD turns up for people. Google how you can work towards reducing a stigma around mental illness. The things that you could do, it might be just inboxing someone and giving them 10 minutes of your time if you want to. They're just steps that you can take. If you wanted to reduce stigma and get involved in that, there are lots of different things that you could do to help. Nobody has to, of course, if they don't want to, because we all have our lives, we all have our interests. But if it is something you're passionate about in supporting other people, there are many ways that you can do that. And if you're as passionate about it as I am, you can go online. There are loads of different articles and blogs and supporting information out there where you can simply, reducing stigma is simply just educating yourself, giving yourself an opportunity to read up on it and learn and understand. Like Vicky said, she bought my book. She doesn't have OCD, but she wanted to learn. That absolutely works towards reducing the stigma by giving yourself an opportunity to learn. I'm going to be creating a almost like a mental health day through Zoom. And what I'm going to be doing is inviting various different people that have a diagnosis and various different people that don't. I'm going to invite them to connect with each other, to have a conversation between them, and I'm going to create some little one-to-one sessions, I think. So watch out for that, so that each of us have the opportunity to connect with someone who doesn't have mental illness, or someone that does, and give them an opportunity to learn something and to connect with someone and really be a bit of an eye-opener. So I'm going to plan that for the end of the month. I'm really excited for this one. So if it's something you're interested in doing, so I'm going to need people that have a diagnosis of a mental health related, something that's related to mental health. That can be anxiety, depression, BPD, absolutely anything, OCD. I'm not going to take part in the OCD one because I'm out and proud about it anyway. People can ask me anything and I will answer it. I'll be looking for somebody that has OCD, an OCD diagnosis, generalised anxiety disorder, depression, hi babes, and then I'm going to be looking for volunteers that don't have a mental health diagnosis, that doesn't really particularly struggle with mental health challenges. I'm going to pair you all up to make a connection, even if it's just for half an hour. I'm going to pair you guys up so that those living with a mental health diagnosis can see that actually they're just as important as somebody that doesn't, and that it's not something to be ashamed about. It's not a case of people aren't interested in them because they don't have a mental health diagnosis, so that they can feel just as special as and important regardless, because it's about the person, not about the diagnosis, and so that the people that don't can learn a little bit about what it's like, and feel supported too. So if you are interested, I am going to be releasing the dates by the end of the month, so please drop your names. If you are on the replay, please pop your name in, or if you don't want to put your name in there and you want to remain anonymous, you can give me a message through Messenger. I'm just going to grab a drink, my throat is so dry. You do not have to out yourself. You would be an awesome Chase, thank you. So you can be our OCD advocate in this one, Vicky, you too. So we've already got 2 of you already. That's ace. Thank you guys. So yeah, I'm really excited. I am so excited. The idea actually came from a really good friend. Lisa shared a article, loving the Harley babe. Thank you. I'd be happy to, I think. Oh, Laura, thank you. Oh, you guys are so brilliant. You really are. So what was I saying? I've completely gone off topic. And I forgot, does this ever happen to anybody where you have a brain fart? Oh my gosh. Brain fart moment. But yeah, nobody is, oh, that was it. My good friend Lisa Hearing shared an article or an event over in America where people were given the opportunity to have like a coffee morning where they was paired up. Your friend put, yeah, thank you, Chrissy. Can you tell it's been a busy day? Someone shares something to you. Yeah. So she shared something very similar to what I'm about to do, but it was more of a case of sharing life experiences as well. And I think it is similar to what I'm doing, but it's done over in America. Florida way, I think, and it's actually, I think it was in person. So I absolutely loved the concept and the reasons behind it. And actually, one of the amazing reasons that I did decide to do that was I was reminiscing this morning. We always do. And I was thinking about our old next door neighbour. Hi Emma. I was thinking about our old next door neighbour. Hi Lauren. Really great, lovely guy. Well into his 70s, I think, when we moved in. And he was often on his own. We'd always see him out gardening. He would pop fresh vegetables into us all the time. We would go in and do some hoovering and some light housework for him, or go and pick up some shopping when he needed it. That's actually when I found out I was allergic to shellfish, because we sat eating crab meat one night. He'd cooked some fresh crabs and I had an allergic reaction. So I actually found out I was allergic to shellfish at that point. No, my face did not swell up. It was actually more interesting that I thought I was turning into an alien. And I remember going there after school on an evening, and I would just adore loving and sitting there listening to all his war stories and all his experiences that he'd had through his life. And I remember sitting there, and I would have only been 14, 15 at the time. I just was so fascinated in listening to all of the, how things were different when he was younger, his war stories, the thing, the great flood, the flooding of the village that we lived in. It had not flooded for something like 40 years since then, but he remembered it so vividly. And when he used to tell me these stories, you could picture it in his mind. And actually, I used to come away feeling so, I don't know, so appreciative of him and the life that he'd had. And also the fact, that I was able to give him that time, because he often spent a lot of time by himself. Same as a few months ago during lockdown, the bus had been late and there was this elderly chap waiting for his bus, really bad leg. And I thought, right, I'm going to decide to walk home. And you could see that, this guy had struck up a conversation, because I will talk to anybody, not like in a weird way, but I like to strike up conversation. And he started walking the same way as me, and I could see he was struggling to keep up, and he was trying to have a conversation with me. Now, at this point, I could have walked quicker and avoided having a conversation, because it might have slowed me down, but actually, in that moment, I had to appreciate the fact that he had a really bad leg, it was in pain, and he was trying so hard to have a conversation. And I thought to myself, I wonder how much contact he has with family and friends, and has somebody that actually listens to him, because typically what you'll find is the older generation, a vast majority of the older generation, are pretty much ignored, or they feel invisible. So the best thing that I could do to make his day or his week was to slow down and walk alongside him, so he wasn't straining that leg, he wasn't causing himself any more pain. And I just listened to him, and he kept referring to me as Bess instead of Bex or Becky, which was really cute. And I thought, I'm not going to correct you, Bess is quite cute, so we'll just leave it as that. I was telling me all about, how our town used to be when he was younger. And I come away from that conversation so enriched, so I felt so much lighter for having that conversation and giving him that time. That's the experience I'm hoping will come through when we have the event at the end of the month, and how important it is and enriching it is to make those human connections, because it is a basic human need that we can tend to forget sometimes. And it's also a basic human need that we struggle to meet it when we're living with mental health and the stigma attached to it. It makes us feel very isolated, like people won't understand, particularly if there's stereotyping going on. We start to feel ashamed about it, so where we won't talk about it, so we hide away at home, and we turn down dinner dates or going out, or when we do go out and we're full of anxiety, those friends stop inviting us. So it's a great opportunity to have to feel fulfilled, to listen to somebody and make that connection. It's a very beautiful thing. So that's what we're doing at the end of the month. These are the kind of things that we can do to work towards reducing stigma and making things a little bit better for people, for each other, and realising that actually just because we have a mental health diagnosis doesn't mean we're less than, it doesn't mean we're any less deserving, it doesn't mean that they're part of who we are, our identity. No adult conversation was the worst during lockdown. Yeah, I was very fortunate during lockdown, because obviously I have the other half, but lockdown was still difficult, and I dread to think what it would have been like in lockdown for those that were living on their own, and how isolated and alone they must have felt. It really makes me feel sad for them knowing that, because I know it almost makes you feel very grateful. Well, it does. It makes me feel very grateful that I had my partner, because I dread to think what I'd have been like had I have not had some adult conversation during lockdown. So yeah, so that's one of the reasons. That's another one of the reasons why I wanted to create the event. It was only an idea this morning, but I thought, do you know what? Why the hell not? People need connection with others, and they, my mental health has deteriorated a lot in the last couple of weeks. Felt like poop. Why haven't you messaged me, Chrissy? Well, I say that, why haven't you? You know I'm always here, sweetheart, so don't ever feel like you can't message me. I have always got some time for you, so don't struggle by yourself. Give me a message and I will listen to you. So, in fact, when we come off here, if you want to give me a call, I have a bit of time. So let's give you some love. Gosh, it's 8:45 already. So that's me done for tonight. What I'm going to be doing every day, I don't know, I've gone off camera, my notebook's just stuck because I spilled my drink earlier. I felt very lonely even though the kids were here. Yeah, it can, without that adult connection. So what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the week until next Friday, because I didn't want to bother people with my poop, but I know you're that beautiful. Why would you be bothering anybody? See, that's another belief, that we feel like we're bothering people. If people didn't want to know, they would say, I'm too busy. They would let you know, or they just wouldn't be interested. But genuinely, the people that care will be bothered and will want to know to help you. So jump in my inbox, missus. This is the only time you hear on my my lives where I say, jump in my DMs. Or what? No, where is it? Sliding my DMs. And give me a message, sweetie. But yeah, until next Friday, every single day I am going to be busting a myth or a stereotype about OCD, what people believe it to be against what it's not, and hopefully from that everybody will have the opportunity to learn a bit more going forward. Even those with, love you too, sweetie, even those with OCD or newly diagnosed OCD that didn't actually know some of these things. So like I said, part of the difficulty for me for nearly 12 months was the belief that it wasn't actually OCD, that was something else, because nobody talks about it, because there's a stigma and a stereotype and nobody understands it. So because nobody's talking about it, nobody actually realises that it is that, and it's not anything more sinister. Haha, I'll slide in your DMs anytime. No comment, Chrissy. Let's keep this PG. Even though I've swore, so not very PG. Anyway, it's been a fabulous life. I hope you've learnt something from this, and a couple of takeaways, and then, like, not literal takeaways, I had one of those earlier. But no, I hope it's been really helpful and really useful in going forward in things that we can do to start reducing stigma. I hope anybody that has been watching live or on the replay feels a little bit lighter in knowing that having a mental health diagnosis is not part of your identity, it's not part of who you are, and it is just as important as having a physical illness. So you are absolutely deserving of support and getting some help. And even if you got an anxiety disorder or generalized anxiety, does not mean you're not worth getting some help and some support. It really doesn't matter if it's affecting you and is having a significant impact, then absolutely you deserve some help and support with that. Just because it's not as serious as what other people's may be doesn't make it any less, doesn't make you any less. And then hopefully there'll be some myths being busted tomorrow onwards, so I look forward to bringing those too. Very grateful for your help. You are most welcome, Vicky. I don't even know if you like being called Vicky or Victoria. It's really confusing because my sister's called Victoria, but she likes to be called Vicky. So apologies if you don't, if you prefer to be called Victoria. But you are more than welcome, is what I'm here for. Hi Rosie, I'm just jumping off now. I will be back live tomorrow with the Ask Me Anything. So if you have questions, slide in my DMs. I'm a Vicky. Cool. Well, I'm not going to forget that because my own sister's called Vicky. Slide in my DMs if you want to ask me something, if it's mental health related, if it's stigmatizing, if it's why the hell I dress up and do cosplay. Ask me anything. Keep it PG. No rude stuff, please, because you'll get your ass blocked faster than I can say pudding. And yeah, I look forward to coming live. I will be in character tomorrow, and I will let you another awesome video, Becky. So thankful for you, and I to you, Chase, too. And thank you to those that have volunteered for the event at the end of the month. I have yet to think of a name, so if you have a suggestion, slide in my DMs. I'm going to make a jingle out of that one. And there's all these little flies flying about. They're very annoying, very distracting. So yeah, you can ask me anything. Like I say, please refrain from anything rude or naughty or sending me anything, because as I said, you will be blocked faster than I can say pudding. And I will be in character tomorrow. It will not be Harley Quinn. I'll let everybody guess. It's a very fun one. It's one of my favourites. And I'll be looking for some questions or a specific topic if anybody wants me to do anything in particular. So please let me know. My inbox is there, and my necklace has just snapped. So that is my cue to go. Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys, and I'll see you back on live tomorrow.